Hello and welcome to another video from Colour with Claire. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I've seen this floating around on YouTube on various people's channels doing tutorials from the Colourist special effects book, and I thought I'd try my hand at it. So I'm going to be choosing one of the tutorials from this book by Helen Elliston, and I'm going to be applying it to an illustration from Morphia by Kirby Roseanne. So first of all, the tutorial that I've chosen is this beautiful shiny butterfly, and then the page in Morphia that I'm going to be doing is this page here. Now I'm not going to be doing the whole page, I'm just going to be doing this one butterfly, but it is quite a large area, and I have very crudely tried to draw on the teardrops because this was a completely blank butterfly, and I haven't done a brilliant job, but we're going to see if we can make it work. So I'm going to see if I can apply a tutorial from Helen Elliston's Colourist special effects onto a completely different book and see if it all works out. So I've chosen the colours for the butterfly, and I have chosen from Prismacolor Crimson Lake and Permanent Red for the red areas, Canary Yellow, of course the white for burnishing, Violet, and then the 70% and the 50% warm greys. So that's the colours that I've picked out for now. I don't know whether I'm going to need to pick out any mid-tones or any other colours as we go through, but these are the basic colours I've chosen. Okay, so I'm going to be keeping the tutorial by my side all the way through, making sure that we follow the steps to a T and seeing if we can get this beautiful butterfly. I have tried it already on the book itself, Colourist Special Effects, but I haven't applied the tutorial to any other colouring book, so I don't know if I'll be able to emulate it on my own, so to speak, so we will see. So first of all, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the butterfly. I'm not going to be showing all of the different step-by-step instructions. Obviously, if you want to know all that, go out and buy the book. It's absolutely incredible, and it's probably the best tenner you'll ever spend if you want to learn more skills about colouring. Okay, so as I say, I've drawn on all of my teardrops. I used some Spectrum Noir art liners, which are kind of running out, which is why all of them look a little bit janky in places. And step one is to pressure shade all of the teardrops in yellow pencil 3/4 of the way across. So we'll start from the points of the teardrops and pressure, oh, there goes the pencil. We're going to pressure shade as Helen advises. So we're going to start off really hard and dark in the very corners of the teardrops, and then gradually feather out the colour, and we're going to do that in all of these. Okay, so I have done all of the yellow parts of the teardrop, and the next piece of instruction says that we need to shade our bright red pencil from the other end, meeting the yellow about halfway, and then in that centre point we have to blend those two colours by pressure shading with that yellow pencil. So again, we do have to be a little bit careful about how much pressure we're using and making sure that we can actually blend that middle area out, because these two colours are very, very different. So getting them to blend without any kind of mineral spirits or using extra pencils in between might be difficult, so we'll see how we go. So I'm just trying to keep the centre strokes very, very light, whilst making sure that the edges are very red and very burnished. Now with the yellow pencil, heavily burnish that centre area. really do need to use quite a bit of pressure to get this looking smooth. That is not too bad. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. Looks pretty good so far. I'm sure we'll be adding little bits of white gel pen and detail on at the end anyway, so if there are any areas that you're not happy with, you can always cover them up at the end. So I'm going to continue now doing all of the red edges of the teardrops. Okay, so we've done all of the red and yellow bits, and I think it looks really super nice. The only thing I would say, if I was doing it like personally, I would do it with a bit of an extra orange or yellow in between these two colours, maybe like yellowed orange or a sunburst yellow, something to just make that graduation a little bit smoother. But I want to follow the tutorial to an absolute T so that you can see exactly the steps and how to do it, and see if it works or not, basically. So next up we are going to be doing the grey and silver kind of colour around the around these teardrop areas, but there is just one more step that I forgot about before we get into that, which is adding that crimson lake onto the edges of our red, just to deepen up that red a little bit more. So I will do that first, and then we will get onto our silver grey areas. Okay, now we can start with our grey areas. So the next step is to use a dark grey pencil, which is going to be the 50% warm grey, to shade the border areas, so the areas around the teardrops. It says, fade your colour down to white in the central areas, pressure shade in white pencil to smooth them out. So let's give this a go. So border areas, obviously we've got the top here, and we've also got the edge of the wing, and underneath as well. So basically outlined this section of the wing, and then also we need to go around the teardrops as well. But not all the way around. I think I'm going to do just the tops of the teardrops on most of them, because it does seem like that's the way Helen's done it on her example. So I'm simply just following the curves of these teardrops that I've drawn in and doing a bit of a shadow around them. Now it says to fade the colour to white, so I'm going to make sure that all of these border areas we've just defined have a very light feathered edge around them, because we're going to need to bring white in here. So I don't want it to be too much of a harsh line. So I'm going to feather all of these out, and hopefully we'll be able to burnish them with the white. Okay, so I've feathered those out quite nicely. We'll see if we can get this white to play with us. So we just have to burnish the whole thing. There goes the edge of the pencil again. That's testament to the amount of pressure I'm using, guys, so you do have to use quite a bit of pressure. Burnishing it to make it look nice and smooth, which is actually working quite nicely. As I say, I have done this one in the book originally just to test it out very quickly on a very small area. So I was a little bit worried about how this would translate to a larger area, especially all of these kind of white burnish blending areas. And you can see I am catching some red as well. So it is quite a challenge just to keep the colours where they're supposed to be. I have caught quite a bit of red. I'm just going to sharpen my pencil. I'm trying not to sharpen it too much because I know that it will just snap. Like that. So I'm going over all of that grey, trying to smooth out any harsh lines. Okay, so I've done my best to burnish all of that grey out with the white. Now the next step is to bring in your darker grey, which is the 70% warm grey, and it says to make the butterfly look more 3D, add a darker grey above the black guideline on the top and left edge of your curves. So I'm just checking out exactly where that means. I think it basically just means to deepen up the areas where we put the first lot of grey. So exactly where you put the grey the first time around, add some of this deeper grey, and this might hopefully just deepen the shadows, make it look a bit more like it's popping out. So we'll give that a go, and then I will re-burnish it with the lighter grey. Okay, so I have darkened up all of the edges, blended it all out with the white, and we need to do that on every single wing now. But on Helen's original illustration, there are some differences to the bottom wings than there are to the top wings, and that is that she adds in some purple. So I'm going to pick up the violet that I have chosen to be the purple on this butterfly. And basically all we need to do is colour the wings in exactly the same way as we have done here, but instead of it all being grey, we're going to make the inner edges of each wing purple. So I'm going to do one of them now, and then I will speed up and do the rest of them and come back at the end to do the final finishing touches. So we have to add nice deep dark purple right on these inner edges and make sure that we're feathering them out, because this is going to meet our grey. And this just adds a little bit something extra to the butterfly, so it's not all grey. And I think it sets off the red and yellow really nicely as well. So just adding in a bit of purple there and here. Now don't forget, you do not have to use Prismacolor. You can use any coloured pencils you have to hand, or even markers, to create this. I like to use Prismas because they're really soft and it doesn't take much effort to get them to blend and me, being quite lazy and wanting to get things done without too much effort, they're ideal for me. But you can use absolutely anything to colour this with. So that is how far I am going with the purple, and the rest of the wing I'm going to do in exactly the same way that we did this. I'm using the same greys, the same everything. So join me in a moment when I've finished. Okay, so I just thought I'd come back in at this point when I've finished the top two wings and also this bottom one as well. I thought that I would do this very last wing with the purple together with you so that you can see how that's done, and then you've pretty much seen how to do every single element of the butterfly. So first of all, we're going to grab that violet colour, if I can find it. Seems to have gone walkabout. Here we go. So we have our violet colour, and that is the first thing that we're going to put down. So exactly the same as I did on the last part, just making sure it's quite dark at the inner edge and then feathers out to blend into the grey. And it does blend into the grey very easily, as you will see. So there's no problem there blending whatsoever. I think the biggest challenge on this butterfly is blending from red to yellow with just those two colours. But even then, you know, it still looks lovely. And, you know, if you wanted to add some more colours into that process, if it's easy for you to do that, definitely go ahead and do it. I guess these tutorials from Helen are just guidelines, and it's just getting you to play around and experiment a little bit more with different techniques. Let me just pop the light on, that might help. Okay, so we've done our purple, we've feathered it out, it's nice and burnished up here in the centre. We're now going to take our middle kind of grey, which is the 50% warm grey, and we're going to bring the purple out, and as you can see, it really does blend nicely. But we're not going to go too far because we don't want a lot of dark grey area. This is just to blend it out, and then we're going to do that border again, which we did on all the other pieces. So we have all the way around the edges of the butterfly. Like that. Go out the lines if you like, doesn't matter. And then on this side, making sure we've done the same as we did over there, just blending out that purple into grey a little bit. Okay, so we also need to make sure that we're doing the tops of these in our medium grey. And you can just carry on that grey around here, just bring it around the top. And just do all of the tops of these teardrops. And then we'll just make sure we've got a nice feathered edge everywhere for that white to blend into. Okay, I'm just gonna get some yellow back in there where I went over it a little bit. Now we need our white. So, as we did on the other wings, we're going over that grey that we've just put down with nice hard pressure and making it blend outwards into the white of the paper. So don't be too transfixed on, you know, where the grey is going at the moment. Just go over the whole thing, and we'll be able to add more back in later if it looks a little bit patchy. Just going to sharpen. I know that noise is horrendous, but it is an amazing sharpener. Okay, Okay, so again, blending out all of that grey to make a really smooth, kind of silvery metallic-y look. Over the top of all of these teardrops. Okay, so this is pretty much blended to where I want it to be at the moment, because we do need to go in with that darker grey, which is the 70%. Just going to sharpen and go over all of the edges and borders again to deepen them up a little bit. And this sort of neatens everything out and redefines those edges. So it is going to look quite harsh at the moment, but we are going to work and blend that out. Because we're going to come back in with the 50% warm grey and just try and buff that harshness out a little bit. So just quite light pressure over the edge of the darker grey. Just to soften that line a little bit. So we're not using very hard pressure here at all. And once you have softened out the edges of that dark grey, you will then be left with one last step, which is to reburnish that grey with the white. And this is where it neatens up a little bit. Lots of dust created by the heavy pressure that I'm using. So you just need to keep playing around with this until you're happy with how it looks. Everybody will be different. But when you are happy, you'll get something that looks a little bit like this, hopefully. And you can just rework it and play with it until you're satisfied, but pretty much that is complete. We just need to go on with the finishing white gel pen touches. Now, just in case you're wondering, I did block fill the centre of the butterfly, the body, with a black tombow marker because that's how it's done in Helen's tutorial, and I wanted to keep true to that. So I've just blacked it out completely, and there we go. I think I'm pretty happy with that at the moment. Might go back in and mess around with it, you know, you're never happy really, are you, 100%? But yes, I like that. I think it looks lovely. So now we need to look back on the tutorial and see what the very final step is to do with this white gel pen. So it says add highlights and white dots and generous blobs of white kind of in all over the place. So I'm just going to do them where I think that they would look best. So just over on this bit here, on this teardrop, I'm going to add some white gel pen and add a few little dots in there as well. Maybe just try and taper that a little bit. Here we go, and maybe one on this big one as well. We'll do a bit of a line and then another line down here, maybe even a little bit down here. So a bit of a broken line, and again let's put some of the dots in there that Helen's done. And then same on the other side. I feel we should try and make it symmetrical as possible. So taper that down and then a couple of dots. And again on this symmetrical area here, we'll try and do our best to keep it uniform. Let's pop another dot there. And then we can just basically put dots anywhere we like. So I'm going to put a few more loose dots that are just floating around in this area here. And again in this area here, just trying to keep it true to Helen's tutorial so that you can see exactly how it's supposed to look in the book. But of course you can customize the tutorial any way that you like. So we've got some nice floaty dots there. We can also add some dots to the grey areas. And try and be as random as possible so it doesn't look, I was going to say it doesn't look too uniform, but a minute ago I was trying to keep it uniform, so it's a bit of a mixture, this one. Helen's also done some sort of white lines in this purple bit, so I'm going to see if we can achieve that as well. And it looks a little bit like they're kind of blurry, so I'm going to try and not make them look so harsh if possible. Not doing it quite as well as Helen has done here, but so trying to just, while it's still a bit wet, just pad my finger over it so it doesn't look too harsh, and probably just scrape a little bit of this away as well. So it's just more of a look of a bit of a streak in it rather than a hard heavy streak. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm just using my finger to rub off most of that and just keep a little blurred bit. And then we can continue adding lots and lots of dots and places anywhere that we like. Gel pen's deciding to play up. Do a bit of a big one there, a few little ones down here, another big one there, big one here, a few little ones down here. And again, just dotting them around absolutely everywhere. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this, once this whole double page spread of butterflies is done in this way, is going to look absolutely incredible, I think. And thankfully the other butterflies are all smaller than this one. I've chosen the largest one to show you properly today, but it'll probably be a lot quicker doing the other smaller butterflies, and the process won't be too laborious. But it will definitely be worth it at the end, because this is just a lovely, lovely way of colouring a butterfly. It's very unique. And there we go, I'm going to call that done. So I hope that you have loved watching me do a tutorial from the fantastic book by Helen Elliston, Colourist Special Effects. Of course, the link is going to be in the description for you to go ahead and buy this book, and also her second book if you wish, so go into the description and look there. But I'm just going to zoom out so that you can see how beautiful this looks and try and imagine the rest of the page done in a similar vein. Now, just to add a disclaimer, I have had Helen's permission to do this tutorial, so don't jump on me in the comments thinking that I have just done this and you know, it's going to ruin any of Helen's book sales or anything like that. Please don't worry, it's all good. And let me know in the comments what you think. Don't forget to click the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you soon on Colour with Claire.